Well, hello, a very good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us for this special edition of Calendar coming to you from Scampton in Lincolnshire. And, well, if you're wondering why I'm in the pub, it's because I'm in the Dam Busters Inn in Scampton. It's the hub of the community, and it's also celebrating the history of 617 Squadron, the famous Dam Busters, of course. And this community has been at the centre of a huge row. Today, though, that came to an end, or for the time being at least. The High Court judge has ruled that a Home Office plan to house up to 2,000 asylum seekers at the former RAF Scampton Air Base was lawful. It follows a 2-day judicial review last month. So how did we get to this point? Emma Wilkinson has today's top story.
After 9 months of campaigning, the wait for this judgment was an anxious one for Sarah. But before it was officially published this afternoon, news started to filter through that they'd lost.
On the residents' Facebook group.
I'm not on there.
I don't know, you okay?
Yeah, where have you got that from?
The confusion was brief, as soon the news she'd feared was confirmed.
I'm really disappointed.
Really disappointed.
But there's not on any terms is our fight over. It's not right for anyone. It's not right for Lincoln, for us residents. It's not right for the companies with the investment, but as well, it's not right for the asylum seekers.
For months, local people have watched this site gradually take shape as accommodation for asylum seekers, despite the efforts of the local council to stop it. Residents have protested, held public meetings, they've even camped outside. But they felt powerless watching lorries bring portable cabins onto the tarmac where they once watched the Red Arrows taking off. This is a base with a long and significant history.
Scampton RAF Station treasures a Lancaster bomber that made a mockery of Goering's boast that we should never bomb Germany.
There have been many chapters in the story of RAF Scampton, but many in this community have fought for the most recent to be rewritten. When the base officially closed last year, the disappointment was briefly replaced with optimism as big investment plans were revealed to redevelop the site. But the Home Office had other ideas.
These will be scaled up over the coming months and will collectively provide accommodation to several thousand asylum seekers.
That announcement was set against a backdrop of record numbers of people arriving in small boats, a daily bill of more than £6 million to house people in hotels, and a huge backlog of asylum cases. So for the government, this is part of the solution to that. They had claimed that the risk of asylum seekers becoming homeless was an emergency that meant it could bypass normal planning rules in order to get accommodation up and running here as quickly as possible. West Lindsey District Council have always felt that that wasn't lawful. But the High Court has ruled today that the government's use of emergency powers was appropriate, and Kevin agrees. He lives in Lincolnshire and was once a chief immigration officer with the Border Force.
It's cheaper, it's more efficient from the point of view of the Home Office dealing with the asylum applicants to be able to go to one place rather than 5 or 6 different hotels. And it's easier to monitor.
But campaigners and those living in the shadow of the base are more worried than ever about the consequences of this now going ahead.
It's a very, very scary time. For them to be, to not know that who these people are, 2,000 people living, mere 100 metres away from their houses.
It's not meaning anything against the people that are going to come here, because we don't know who they are or what they're going to be like, but it's just the unknown of having that many men, 2,000 men in close proximity, all together in one place. I don't know, it's just gutting. It's just absolutely gutting.
And those were the words uttered by many here today, because this is a place that's more than just a military base to them. It's part of the fabric of their community.
Well, I'm joined now by Sarah, who you saw in Emma's report there, and also by Terry Rumble. You live near the base, of course, both of you, and you've been campaigning against this ruling, this decision. That's it then, isn't it? That's it. You've lost it today.
No, definitely not. This was just round one. The court case was based around using Section Q, excuse me, and the next bit will be the special development order that the Home Office will apply for. So it will be fighting them on that next.
So that's your next thing to do?
Yep.
Wow, and how are you feeling about that?
Optimistic. We're going to be appealing to MPs across the country. So we've got a big task ahead of us, but yeah, we'll do whatever's necessary.
Terry, despite that and what Sarah said there, is there a feeling that this is an unstoppable train and this is just something that's going to happen anyway?
I think it will probably happen, if I'm honest, but we're going to do our level best to stop it and prevent it. The problem is, as far as I'm concerned, that we're constantly being told under the latest immigration bill that these are not asylum seekers, that these are illegal immigrants. So today's judicial review result confuses me because it only refers to asylum seekers, and I don't really understand why it's been approved.
Do you ever, Sarah, think about, we talk about asylum seekers, we talk about illegal immigrants, but do you ever think about the individuals that are involved and what they've gone through?
Yeah, of course we do, but this has been created by the Home Office not doing their job properly for the last sort of 10 plus years, which has created a problem that they're then putting on to us. So although we do, I wouldn't want to be living there. It's basically going to be a concentration camp. I don't think anyone would want to live there.
The Home Office say they're going to work very closely with West Lindsey District Council to make sure that this is actually something that will work.
Well, that remains to be seen whether it'll work or not. But my overriding feeling is that these people are coming from France, and why don't they claim asylum in France? France isn't a dangerous place to live. People like Sarah and I and many others go there for a holiday. So you have to ask the question: why do they risk their lives crossing the Channel to come to Great Britain?
So you just don't want them here?
I don't have a problem with asylum seekers at all, or refugees, genuine refugees. I housed a Ukrainian family for 6 months. I am fearful of 2,000 young fighting-age men, as the Home Office call them, swamping out 500 or 600 residents at Scampton.
All right, well, look, thank you very much indeed for giving us your views tonight on Calendar. Thank you very much indeed. Well, we mentioned West Lindsey District Council, of course, who brought about this judicial review, and our reporter Amelia Beckett has been talking to them about today's decision.
Ian, thank you. Yes, I'm outside West Lindsey District Council offices in Gainsborough this evening, and I'm joined by the Director of Planning, Sally Grinrod-Smith. Sally, you've been living and breathing this case since March, really. Lots of twists and turns, but today, ultimately, the decision that the Home Office plans are lawful. How would you feel?
So it's been a fascinating day. Obviously the judgment was handed down. We didn't know fully what was in that judgment. And what we have seen, that despite the claims being dismissed by Justice Thornton, she has granted the opportunity to immediately appeal that decision, which tells us there is something in there that requires further investigation, and ultimately that is the use of Class Q, the government's emergency powers. So yet another twist and turn in the story here.
Yeah, we'll just go into that Class Q because it's a bit complicated. So it's emergency powers that basically the court has said the asylum situation is an emergency. That's the case, isn't it?
So you have to remember that what the judicial review was considering was the position in March of this year. So much water under the bridge and time has passed now. So what you'll see when you read into the detail of the judgment is that Justice Thornton was very clear that actually the proposals to use the site for longer than 12 months were well established in March of this year. So there's a real challenge here in terms of the environmental impact assessment screening opinion. And if you remember, I described that as the key to unlock Class Q. So whilst the judgment tells us that in the position of an emergency, Class Q can apply, actually there is still a very murky area here around the Home Office not having completed the correct screening assessment for a development that's going to go on beyond the 12 months of Class Q.
So as you mentioned, a murky area, some uncertainties. Are you planning to appeal this judgment?
So that will be a decision that West Lindsey District Council now needs to take. You know, there's a litigation process there. What that means is we've been given the opportunity to consider that decision, and that's very much where we wanted to be at this moment in time.
Sally, thank you very much. So as you heard there, potential for appeal. This isn't over yet. You might be hearing the Christmas music in the background at the moment. Not quite the Christmas present they were hoping for today.
OK, Amelia Beckett, thank you very much indeed. In fact, we'll catch up with you later on the programme. Thanks very much, Amelia, for that. Now, we've been talking about these redevelopment plans, haven't we? What exactly are those all about? It was back in February when West Lindsey District Council decided to vote in favour, in fact unanimously, to acquire the Scampton site and partner up with the developer Scampton Holidays. Its grand plans for the site promise £300 million of investment that would not only be a levelling up opportunity for Lincolnshire, but could create a national centre of excellence for aerospace technology. It envisages a number of different zones, including one for hotels and leisure, a heritage area with a museum and visitor centre, an education zone, an area for space technology, and the site would have an operational runway once again. Well, a little earlier I spoke to the chairman of Scampton Holdings, Peter Hewitt, and I began by asking him for his reaction to today's ruling.
Well, naturally we're disappointed, but I think the reality of this is that it clears the way now for perhaps a more open discussion with the Home Office, whereas when litigation was pending, then I suspect there was a natural reluctance to engage with us. But hopefully this will mean that we can start to have some sensible conversations.
So you've not heard anything from the Home Office as yet? Not as yet, no. The MP, Sir Edward Lee, has been in touch, I understand, with Robert Jenrick, but that was last week rather than this week. So, in all honesty, nothing heard from the Home Office at all so far. Is this the end of the line, or is there perhaps an opportunity to appeal this decision? Well, my understanding is there is an opportunity to appeal. Now, whether or not West Lindsey, who are leading the case, will decide to do that or not is yet to be determined. But from our perspective, the most important thing is to get on site as soon as we can and try and get this development going, because frankly, people's lives in Scampton and around are on hold. And it's been a very, very important issue to the locals, as you will know, because it's affected them in so many different ways. And the sort of slightly frustrating thing, in fact, indeed, the very, very frustrating thing is we're having approaches from major international aerospace companies who want to come and use Scampton to develop and to put production lines of their products, and yet we can't tell them anything. So we're still in this state of limbo, which for a commercial organisation is very frustrating. But there is still a determination from you that you will actually get some benefit out of this in the long run, that there will still be something good come out of this. Well, inevitably I'm an optimist, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this. And so yes, we believe ultimately it will all work out and it will all be for the good. Clearly there's been quite a lot of cost involved in the short term, and whether one recoups that or not is to be seen. But the most important thing for us is to get this development going, to give some certainty to to Lincolnshire and to Scampton residents in particular as what is going to happen. Mr. Hewitt, thank you very much indeed for joining us on Calendar. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, from Scampton Holdings Limited, of course. Now then, as you can see here at the Dam Busters Inn tonight, it's very busy, always at this time of night, and particularly with Christmas coming up. But there's one subject on everybody's lips tonight, and that is, of course, this judicial review ruling today. And it's also something that's being closely scrutinised in Westminster. So let's join our political correspondent, Katie Oscroft, who's there. And Katie, I have to ask you, do you think the government is in celebratory mood tonight?
Well, the government will no doubt see this as a big step forwards in its attempt to rehome some 50,000 asylum seekers currently in hotels. But I'm joined now by the Conservative MP for Gainsborough, Sir Edward Lee. The festivities have begun behind us here at Westminster, but this is not the Christmas present you wanted, is it?
No, it's obviously disappointing, but I understand the council's going to appeal, and I understand they have solid grounds for appeal, so the fight goes on.
Do you feel that there is somewhere to go from here, that all is not lost?
I don't think it's all is lost, but this could take months now, and I've suggested to the government months ago that they should have been prepared to compromise with West Lindsey, and we could have had just 300 or 400 migrants in a remote part of the site, and we could have gone on ahead with this wonderful regeneration. And there are some very exciting proposals now which are all being held up and stymied, so I just want to make progress, really.
Well, I'll come back to you in a second, Sir Edward, but I spoke earlier to the prospective Labour candidate for Lincoln, and he was clear about what he wanted the Home Office to do.
They need to speak to the investors. £300 million, which is what the investors are promising, is more than double the total amount of money that the whole of Lincolnshire has got from every levelling up funding in history. This is a massive amount of money. And if the government is going to be even a tiny bit responsible, the Home Office needs to open that discussion with Scampton Holdings.
Well, Sir Edward, I'm sure you'd agree that this area needs investment, needs money. You have a new Home Secretary now, James Cleverly. He's just been on his feet in the Commons talking about the plans to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. Do you have his ear?
Well, I've requested a meeting now with James Cleverly and also a meeting with Michael Gove and Kemi Badenoch, the three cabinet ministers who are responsible for the Home Department, the Business Department, Levelling Up. And I really want to bash some heads together, because this is completely ridiculous that when we have the biggest bit of levelling up, worth up to £300 million that we've ever had in Lincolnshire, to spend months of taxpayer-funded court cases just arguing over obscure legal points is not the right way to proceed. And we should sit down together and get the regeneration of Scampton up and running.
Well, Sir Edward, thanks for joining us tonight. We did speak to the Home Office, who said, crucially, it will work with councils and key partners to manage the impact.